to shuffle up. With Duncan, Jeff, and Sloan, let's fill our cups. Commander decks in hand, the battle's about to start. A podcast for the legends, where magic meets the heart. Commander's Pod, where the stories unfold. With heroes and villains, new and old. Duncan, Jeff, and Sloan guide the way. In the world of EDH we play.
Hello everyone, welcome to Commander's Pod again. My name is Duncan.
I'm Sloan.
I'm Jeff.
And thank you for joining us. Today we're going to talk a little bit about some communication I got from a fan.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to go over that. We're going to talk about Blue Ramp. Is it a thing? And we're going to talk about some more of our pet cards that are underplayed. Cards that we like that we don't see a lot in the wild.
Right.
Okay. So let's get right into it. So we got an email from Alex. He emailed us right before Christmas, so it's been a little busy. First chance we've had to kind of respond to this because of our recording schedule.
Yeah.
But he wanted to tell us he's a big fan. He said he likes listening to our topics. He watches a lot of the videos.
Cool.
He does want us at some point to do some deck techs, and he was specifically interested in Gishath.
Okay.
So maybe sometime we can do a Gishath deck tech, and you can go through some of your...
Happy to do that, Alex.
Yep. And he said one of his underrated cards is Spellskite.
Yep. And I actually have it pulled up here.
That's
for
actually
people who
pretty
don't
good.
know. It's a artifact creature horror. 2 colorless is all it costs. That's it. And it has pay blue or Phyrexian, which is 2 life.
Uh-huh.
Change a target of target spell or ability to Spellkite.
Yeah.
So what that does is that allows you to protect your commander potentially, or protect another piece on your board by redirecting it.
Yep, or sometimes steal their good stuff. If they're trying to put an enchantment on their guy, that's going to be really good for them.
Yeah.
And the other thing this lets you do is it lets you get more use out of it than one time. So
Right.
when you redirect
Well, unless
the
it's a
spell,
death spell, you're...
No, you still get more. I'll explain. But when you redirect something, you do it once. This is always out there. So when someone's like, oh, I'm going to target, you'd be like, well, I'm just going to stop it. And there's many times where they won't target you because you're just going to stop it. So they'll target someone else. And in reality, by the end of the game, that one card might have stopped 3 or 4 people from trying to, come
Right.
after you for the cost of that one card.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
so
so it's
virtually,
very, very
you
powerful.
can virtually use it.
Yes.
most-
Because
Exactly.
it's almost like a board state.
deters
of,
people.
Yeah, it's a board state deterrent because
Yeah.
you're like, whatever you target, if I don't like it,
That's right.
you know.
And so they'll just pick the easier path. People are much like water and air in that way. They'll take the path of least resistance.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So, Spellskite is a very good card. I do think it's underplayed.
Mm-hmm.
I think some people play it, and I think the danger is that they're like, it's been like 5 games. I haven't been able to get it out, or it hasn't been useful when it's
Right.
out. So they take it out without giving it a fair shot. That can save your commander a lot.
I mean, how many times has a Swords of Plowshare halted your commander in its tracks?
Yeah.
You know? Sure, I'll pay 2 life, and now you're exiling my 1/1 Spellkite that doesn't do anything.
And-
Sure.
Is it a 1/1? I thought it was like a 0/2.
It might be a 0/2. I don't know. Unfortunately, I have only the snippet on here because
Oh, okay.
of reasons. But yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes, reasons.
Yeah, so I think it's a 0/2. So the other bad side is you get no life from it if they do.
Yeah.
But you've saved your commander
Right,
or whatever
yeah.
it was they were going after. So no, that's a great card, Alex.
For sure.
I think that's definitely one that people don't play enough, and I think people have tried it and given up. And good on you for sticking with it. So.
For sure.
So today's counterspell, we're going to do something kind of different. So I was looking at the Commander official Commander website, which is now taken over by Wizards, and they had an idea for an alternate version of Commander, and they called it bsEDH. And you can look it up on their website for the specifics. But basically what it was, this would work on if you're playing a virtual version, like on Spell Table or on Cockatrice or one of those where you play virtually, but it's not so structured, so you can make your own cards. Or if you're playing proxy decks, if you play a lot of proxies,
Right.
if you play with people that play proxies, you can do this. And what you do is you create every deck you play. Each player creates 10 cards that are fake.
Okay.
right? And the idea is to try and catch people playing the fake cards versus the real cards.
Right.
Okay. So what the challenge would be is like, hey, play a lot of like really obscure stuff in there that people don't play, people haven't heard of.
Right.
And they're like, really? That's a thing? Or, it might have a really crazy mana cost, but you have a bunch of that stuff in there, so that it's kind of false, kind of red herrings. But at any point, one of the opponents can call BS on your card, and if they do, and you're playing a fake card, you lose half your life.
Right.
And if they do, and you're not playing a fake card, if that was a real card, they lose half their life.
Right.
So I just thought it was kind of an interesting take, kind of like a liar's dice version of.
Yeah, there's a standard card game called BS, and I'm assuming that's what it's based around.
Probably.
Where basically in that card game, you say you put your cards face down the middle, you go around the table, you say, "Oh, I'm putting down 2 2s." Well, you might be putting down an ace and a jack, but you're lying about putting down 2 2s. You put it face down, and if someone says, "Oh, that's BS," and they call you on it, you have to take the whole stack in the middle and add it to your hand. And the point of the game is to get rid of all your cards first.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that's kind of where this concept.
And by the way, BS obviously stands for bluff, son.
Yeah, plus.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of games that sort of play off of this idea of
Right.
sort of figuring out if you're being tricked or duped. I'm not a fan of it for Magic. Maybe it's a way to do like a fun game, at a party or something,
Right,
where
yeah.
it's a little bit less about the strategy and a little bit more about like just having fun because you're yelling BS at people and maybe you get some cool moments. But I also still if I have time to play the game, I just want to play the game.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't want BS. I just want the regular game.
Right.
Well, I think it would be fun coming up with a card, like inventing your own card. People do it all the time. There's chats on like Discord and whatnot for alters. You know what I mean? Or not alters, for custom cards. And they come up with these ideas and they try and they get feedback to make it as fair as possible.
Right.
And it's kind of like that, right? You're kind of trying to come up with something that seems like it might be real, but it's not.
I mean, if that's the fun in inventing cards, I suppose we could play where like we go, hey, each person gets to invent 3 cards, and they have to be approved by the rest of the group. So Duncan, you invent 3 cards, we approve it, and we're like, we'll play with those cards a few times,
Yeah.
see what they do. I wouldn't hate that.
I got one for Duncan.
What?
It's a blue enchantment, and it says every single time you counter a person's spell successfully, put a counter on this. And at the beginning of your upkeep, if it has 25 counters, you win the game.
Yeah, I love that.
I know feeding his counter deck is not a great idea, but I feel like that Duncan would be like,
Well,
yeah.
and it says a thing, counters cannot be added by any other means.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so it
Because
keeps
we're making the card.
Yeah.
So that might be what happens. Someone creates a card,
Yeah.
and you're like, I'm not going to prove it that way, but if I add this stipulation, now I'll prove it.
Right.
Yeah, counters can only be added by actually countering spells, and
Yes.
not by anything else.
You got to counter 25 things to win the game. I'm okay with that, but even 15, maybe 25 is not. So, we could do that.
I mean, technically, he could keep countering his own stuff too if he really
Yeah,
wanted
I
to.
gotta have
Yeah,
something
but
to counter.
25 is hard.
I mean, if you do 1 per person per turn, that's 3 right there. So I mean, it
That's still hard to get to 25.
sure, yeah. I mean, he only
I don't think I have a
has-
deck that has 25 counter spells.
That's a lot.
The sad thing is I do, but it's literally a counter spell.
Oh, no, my Baral.
Yeah, I was about to say, there's no way you don't. You're a liar.
Yeah, my Vicenzi.
Which maybe even the counterspell deck doesn't even have 25, actually, now to think of it. It's possible.
When I built my counterspell deck, I think I put like 37 in there or something.
If I were to do that, I would want to put in there like the counterbalance that says reveal a card when somebody casts a spell, and if it's the same mana value, it counters it. So that's like repetitive.
oh yeah, that's a good one.
know,
That'd be a
stuff
good
like
one
that.
to put in there. Yeah, that's cool.
I think my Brawl, is it Brawl Chief of Compliance?
Yeah.
I think that deck's mostly designed like, when I play the counterspell, other things happen.
Well,
I get creatures.
Well,
all
because
kinds of
Brawl
stuff.
makes them 1 less, and then you get to draw a card
Yeah,
and
I
discard
draw
a
tons of
card.
cards,
I-
make birds, all kinds of nutty
I can make a Lear deck because that way I only need half that many, and I play them again from my graveyard.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah. But no, so anyway, making up cards can be fun.
Yeah.
Check out the article on the Commander website and see what you think. I think it's kind of a neat variant. It's a lot easier if you're just doing it online, where you can just make the card yourself.
Yeah, and you don't have to worry about like someone like looking over the card and doing a lot of nonsense. I mean, I think the idea is kind of cool. I think the more fun part would be just creating cards, because I think that's fun. And
Yeah.
I tend to agree with that.
so, but yeah, I'm kind of in Jeff's camp. If I have time to play Magic, I'm playing Magic. Period. So
I wish we could go back in time though and play like this kind of a game with like people that were playing Magic like 10 years ago, because the power creep that's come. It's like this card says that I deal triple damage this turn, or I get triple mana.
That's not a real
fake.
card. Yeah, that's not a. That can't be real.
There's no way, dude. You went way too far.
No, my favorite though out of cards that just seem ridiculous is I forget the name of it, but it's a green card that triples your mana, and it doesn't just add 3, it triples. So if you tap
Next
something for
Bloomation?
2, Nyx Bloom.
Yeah, next one.
That card is so nutty. It's like
stupid.
so
It's
unnecessary.
such a stupid card.
I have fun playing that card, but it does feel like it's win more.
Yeah.
Like you don't really need it.
Yeah.
Well, especially if you play something like Mirari's Wake, where you're already doubling your
Yeah.
mana, and then you play that, like
Right.
it just gets out of hand.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel bad, because I feel like that's like my Calamax deck, where it's like, oh, I'm going to copy this spell, but hold on, I'm going to cast 4 more spells, so really I'm making 16 copies of this spell, and like, so kind of, I get it, but yeah, Nyx Bloomation, it gets a little ridiculous, for sure, because of it being specifically for like mana, and doesn't he cost like 7 to get out?
Yeah, it costs a lot.
Right, so like at that point of the game, like it really is like a hat on a hat. It's like, why do I even need
It's definitely win more, but if you get him out and then you cast like anything
Right of
with
replication.
X, yeah, anything with X in its mana cost.
Yeah,
you're
that's
like,
gross.
Yeah, it's,
No, you cast Right of Replication, you make 5 copies of him.
yeah. Yes, I know.
And then you have to do the math just to figure out how much mana you're making.
Yeah.
You're making 3 times 3 times 3 times
Yeah,
3
3 to the
times 3.
5th power.
It's wild. I don't see Nyx Bloomation a lot either.
Oh, I do.
I think it's because he's more.
Oh, I shouldn't say a lot, but I see it often.
Yeah, he's
And
more.
every time it's like, uh-oh.
Yeah, it's like someone has something to deal with it. No, all right, game's
I'm
over.
gonna untap with this. What are you guys gonna do?
I'll
Yeah.
cry.
Yeah.
So
So, anyway, so just a little thing to check out, something to think about. Jeff, what's triggering you nowadays?
I'm pretty triggered here at the office by the common use spoons. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but you'll have like the coffee station. You know, I don't know, maybe we're just a weird business, but we've got a coffee station and we have common use spoons. So this is a spoon that you're supposed to stir your coffee with, and it will sit there and get crusty and gross. And people they use it. I want no part of this disgusting spoon. I don't know why this is a thing that exists.
Right.
People need to be better. That's gross.
I mean, you're assuming that somebody doesn't. They probably, without even thinking about it, might just like stick it in their mouth and,
Yeah. Take a test sip and then stir.
Yeah.
It's like, no, thank you.
Well, plus sometimes they go back for their second or third cup, so
Yeah.
there's backwash in
that's
that
right,
cup.
in the
Yeah.
cup.
Yeah.
No, that's nasty.
Yeah.
That's
a bad. I'm
folks.
glad I don't drink coffee.
Don't use a common use spoon. Use your own spoon. It's okay.
There is no spoon, according
Okay.
to the Matrix.
Yeah.
So
Oh, there isn't?
no.
I saw a black cat.
Yeah.
twice.
All right. Well, I mean, hey, yeah, that's a good point though. It's safety first.
Yeah.
Still
Probably
not
sharing
magic
a spoon.
related, but it's a good point.
Yeah.
Well, Duncan.
Wait, let's
true.
try.
Duncan has to be gone for me to do something magical.
Maybe it is. Maybe we're not thinking like out of the box enough. Maybe we need to think about. So maybe it's not really about the spoon.
Maybe it's a metaphor
for hug decks. For hug decks.
He doesn't,
right?
He doesn't
Because
like the
it's like-
Commonwealth.
Yes, he doesn't like the Commonwealth. He doesn't like sharing
You guys might
resources.
be trying too hard. It's really just about a spoon. As Freud said, sometimes a hammer is just a hammer.
Yes. Let's move on to that doesn't do what you think it does. And common thought is that blue cannot ramp. And I'm here to tell
Who
you,
thinks that?
lots of people.
Oh, wow.
Whenever I do it, every time I do it, people are like, wait, what? What's that card do? What did you just do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In blue. So let's give some examples here. A Dreamscape Artist is actually land ramp. You pay 2 in a blue, you sacrifice a land, and you go get 2 lands.
Yeah.
So
Is it basic lands or any lands?
basic lands.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
Netherland.
Copy land. You can make a copy of any land.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's very good.
I mean, it's not going to be as cost efficient as green, right?
No, actually, that is right up there. I think it is because it doesn't come in tap, does it?
Right.
No, so that is up there because I think,
Nature's Lore, does that come in?
no, that's 2, but there is one for spoils. What's it called? The spoils card, which is 3. Go get a land. It comes in untapped.
Yeah.
So that's right on par with green.
Okay, so there's that one. This one I love, Mitotic Manipulation. What it actually says is reveal the top 7 cards of your library. If you find a card that has the same name as a permanent in play on your board, you can put it into play.
So like island. Okay.
It's going to be an island.
Well, yeah, you have to play a lot of basic.
I mean, if you're playing multicolor, I guess it could be a forest or something. But yeah, that's first time I played that in the game. Somebody's like, "This is Commander. You're not going to have."
How much mana does that cost?
3, 1 and 2 blue.
That could get you 3 lands. That's
No, it's you only get one.
you
You
only
only
get
get
one.
one permanent.
Yeah, you get one
I
permanent.
don't love that one. Then that's risky.
I mean, it's still 3. Yeah,
You can miss that.
I mean,
Yeah.
well, I guess the big question is too, because then they get cycled to the bottom.
yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it gets you. It's like a forced
Gets
scry.
you closer to a land, maybe.
Yeah, it could get you closer to land. It
But
forces a
it's not
scry
ramp,
too.
I don't think. It's risky ramp.
I mean, it is ramp. It's just risky ramp.
Yeah, that one's not bad. It could, like Jeff said, that one's a little bit hit or miss. But I think the more plus sides in that one is like, let's say you reveal 4 lands in a row. Like, great, get rid of them. They're at the bottom now. Now I still get one out of it.
And what's the best ramp out of any card in all of blue? See if we all agree.
The best ramp out of any card in all of blue, High Tide.
It's high. I see. I think it's close high tide, but I think it's mana drain.
Mana Drain is very
I
good.
think it's mana drain.
I mean, so mana drain's just as dependent as some other ones though, because like you have to wait for the right spell, and then are you countering it just for the mana?
You're almost always going to get 3. You're almost always going to get 3.
But you're technically only netting 1 then, because mana drain costs you 2.
Yeah, but you're netting it on the next turn, which is
True.
Yeah, it's like a layaway plan.
Yeah.
Sure. So, but I mean, it's
And
one
you
of
could
those.
easily get 5 or 6.
No, but I mean, that is good, but High Tide, if you're playing mono blue.
Yeah, high
you're-
tide's gross.
If you're playing mono blue, high tide could be good, but you have to get to 3 or 4 lands before it becomes really worth it.
Right. There are also mana dorks in blue. People don't realize there are. Now, a lot of them have stipulations. You have to cast either artifacts or instants or sorceries.
Right.
But there are some that aren't. Sea Scryer, you tap for a colorless, or you can use it as a filter and you tap one and it's now whatever color you want. I think it's blue. It has to be blue. And then there's Apprentice Wizard, which is tap blue and you get 3 colorless. So,
Okay.
so those are some mana dorks. And
Patron of the Moon.
let you play an additional land each turn.
That's a good one.
Yep.
You pay. I think you pay 1, you get to put a land into play.
I think is how it works. But so anyway, that's some blue ramp. Not playing colorless. Not cheating that way.
Yeah, not talking about all the rocks and
Right,
stuff. We're talking
yeah.
about actual blue base spells and.
Right. And if you are using the rocks, though, there are the blue Trinket Mage and stuff like that go get
And Sapphire Medallion,
Sapphire Medallion.
which is
Yeah.
Right.
occurs.
Yeah, but there's one of those for each.
Yeah,
color.
there's
They're not
also-
unique.
There is, but in blue, blue and black probably, maybe white too.
Yeah, because I think Jet
Green,
Medallion.
no
Pearl
one's
Medallion.
playing that in green.
Yeah, Mind Splice Apparatus. If you want to cast instants and sorceries, each round you put a counter on it. Your instants and sorceries cost 1 less, and there's a ton of stuff that says instants and sorceries cost 1 less. And
There is, yeah. And then there's also all the artifacts that flip into lands.
yep,
Or there's the artifact that every time you attack, you go get a land. So there's all kinds of stuff. And blue
Yeah.
has evasion, so you can typically fly in and hit someone.
right. But my point was, you can put the artifacts in any deck.
Yeah.
Blue does have stuff specifically in it that ramp.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They get you there.
Yep. So people don't often think about it, and every time, like I said, I play it, people are like, wait, what?
Which, speaking of copy land, I'm going to go off on a tangent for a second because Duncan helped me look through his cards for Galadriel.
Yep.
And I ran into pockets of cards where you could tell Duncan was on Card Kingdom or TCG Player. Shout out to you guys who take all my money. And you could tell he was on there. He's like typing away. He's like, whoa, this card? I got to get one of those. No, I got to get 20 of those.
Yeah.
Because one of them that I saw in there was like 20 of it was copy land.
Rhythm of
and
the
I was
Wild,
like,
right?
this is wild.
Yeah, Rhythm of the Wild was another one.
Yeah.
It wasn't Rhythm. It was
Copy Land, you said.
Copy Land, and then the one that was like Rhythm of the Wild, which is
Yavimaya.
yes,
Fires of Yavimaya.
Fires or Yavimaya, right?
Yep. Because Rhythm of the Wild costs a little more than.
Same cost that they.
No. I'm talking dollars.
Oh yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But it makes your stuff not be able to be countered, which is nice.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. But so, just some tips. Blue can ramp. Don't think they can't, and play some of that, and you're gonna surprise people who don't think it can.
I mean, I know we did mention what we think the best blue ramp is, but I think we're blatantly ignoring it. It's pretty much all counter spells are the best blue ramp, because making your opponents spend 7 to 8 mana for you to spend 2 and then stop it, that's real ramp.
Yeah, well, if you're one-on-one, it becomes more like that. If you're a four-person game, you're down a card, the person across from you is down a card, and the other two people haven't been affected at all, so...
Well, if I'm playing my Lair deck, I'm not down anything.
That's true.
That's true. Maybe true. Maybe. Someone goes ahead and gets rid of your graveyard, you're down.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can't...
So let's talk about the main topic today. So we're talking about our underplayed cards that we play.
Yep.
Our pet cards, Alex talked about Spellskite. So one of the ones I like is Scorched Ruins.
Scorched Ruins.
Yeah.
I'm
Either
gonna,
of you guys play that?
I'm gonna
It's
base
land.
off. Okay. Does it produce red by any chance?
I think it destroys lands.
Does it?
I mean, you have to sacrifice lands.
Yeah.
No, I've never heard of Scorched Ruins. I don't think I've ever played it.
I think what does it do, Duncan?
So I'm pulling it up right now. But when you play it, it taps for, I believe, 4 mana. Hold on, it's coming up. So when it comes into play, sacrifice 2 untapped lands, or you bury it. Tap it, add 4 colorless mana to your mana pool.
So you give up 2 to get 4, and it comes in untapped?
Yes.
So you immediately net 2 mana, but it's only colorless.
Right.
But still.
But that's not a bad card.
No.
If you have a mana-hungry deck, this card is great.
Yeah, especially if you're just in one color. But as soon as you get into 2 and 3 colors, you're possibly giving up lands that you need to get the pips.
Yep.
So that's a challenge. But yeah, I would say in the decks you play, that makes a lot of sense because it's an ancient tomb that isn't going to hurt you every time. Is essentially
It's a double
what you get.
Ancient Tomb, because Ancient Tomb only taps for 2.
Yeah.
Well, it's not because you gave up 2 lands for it, so it's only netting you 2.
Right.
So it's an ancient tomb that doesn't hurt you.
Also, any decks where you get Rog Monster if you're
Yeah.
playing things where you want lands in your graveyard.
To get, yeah,
Yep.
that would be very.
Especially the new one. Was it the new one that does the dredge? No, it was, what's it called? That plant thing that does dredge lands.
Necrobloom.
Yeah.
Necrobloom.
Yeah, I think that's, Necrobloom. I think that's his name.
My card on here is Mosswort Bridge. I love this card. Been playing this card for so long. It's a hideaway land, so this land enters a battlefield tapped. When it does, look at the top 4 cards of your library, exile 1 face down, then put the rest on the bottom of your library. It has tap, add a green, or pay a green, tap. You may play the exiled card without paying its mana cost if creatures you control have total power 10. Well, in Commander, having total power 10 of creatures in green is the easiest thing you could possibly do.
I mean, I guess, yeah.
And so you're going to pay
Shocking that he picks a green card.
you're going to pay 1 green and get like the most like a lot of times I get bonker cards off that.
Here's my thing, though. It's the opposite of you had me at hello. You didn't have me at comes into the battlefield tapped.
I mean, yeah, but you can't think of this as much as a land.
So you're missing a land drop with that.
No.
It might as well say sacrifice a land
You're giving
And
up
you
a
get a
land
layaway
that
plan.
turn to play something for 1 green. So imagine
on
if
the
you have
following turn, you can't do it that turn.
yeah, on the following turn. So you could be 5, 6 mana, 7 mana. You're jumping up, and then the rest of the time it still taps for green. So
Yeah, it still has a tap ability. They have those for each color. Green, red, white, black, and blue all have one. I think
But they're
black is life loss.
They have a
red,
couple of
red
them
is
now.
damage. Yeah, red is damage done to your opponents, I think.
they're slightly harder to accomplish than this one, though, I think. Because I play the white one sometimes, and I think you have to attack with a certain amount of creatures.
If you attack those at least, I think it's 2 or more or 3 or more creatures.
It's definitely 3 or more. It's not 2. It's hard. I think it might even be 4, but it's hard.
It's not
or
4.
a certain amount of
It's
power.
usually 3 is what they pick.
But-
My guess is it's 3.
But no, it is a good card, and I've seen you use it to great effect. I've also seen other games where you use it and you never get to pull it off before you're killed.
Yeah,
'Cause it comes late in game.
that does happen.
Yeah. So this is one that I found recently, and I'll read what it does, and you tell me what deck you think I put it in.
Okay.
All right. It's a 2 and a red sorcery. It's called Galvanic Relay. Have you heard of this?
Yep.
Exile the top card of your library. During your next turn, you may play that card. Storm.
Prosper.
Yeah. I came across this and I was like, why has no one ever recommended putting this in Prosper? Because
might have.
I mean, I looked through, I would say no less than 15 different Prosper decks when I was building my Prosper deck. And I didn't really see a lot of people recommending this card.
Yeah.
And
I mean, you and I don't use EDH a lot, but if you
that's
go on there,
that's like my back burner one. So I usually look up decks first, and I kind of see how other people are playing. Galvanic Relay, Galvanic. This is one, I don't know what set this is from. I can't tell by the logo, but
that is Modern Horizons.
Modern Horizons. So, but it's an interesting card because with the card I actually replaced in my deck with this was Commune with Lava. And the reason why was because even though Commune with Lava is an instant and it has a lot of benefits, it's an X spell. So the downside is if I want to make it worthwhile, I have to commit a lot of mana into it. And then I had to do it on someone else's turn to really gain the benefits so that I have all my mana up and available, which means I'm not doing a lot on my turn.
Right.
The advantage of this one is I still get to do a lot on my turn and then do this, and then I still have all those cards to play with on my next turn, which is what I really like about this, because if I even cast, let's say, 3 other spells or 4 other spells, that's 3 to 4 extra cards I get to play with on my next turn, plus the one I get off the Prosper trigger if he's out. So that's 4 to 5 extra cards while I'm still playing cards. And that's what I really like about this. I thought this was pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, I haven't seen a lot of people recommend this for Prosper or really play with it a lot. And I read it and I was like, I mean, this is a really gross card because again, don't forget, Storm is also every spell cast that turn. So if your opponents are casting stuff during your turn as well, that still counts towards the Storm count.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I think it's only an 8% of Prosper decks.
Right. I mean,
that's super low.
It's very low. Like I said, no one's playing. I'm like, why not? This is in my opinion, this is much better value than Commune with Lava. Much better value.
Well, it might also be, though, because many of the people that play Prosper are degenerates. And they're playing the really gross CEDH stuff.
I mean, there's a really good chance that's true. So, but yeah, so that was one that I came across more recently, and I shifted into my Prosper deck because I was like, this is so good, I have to put it in. So that one I think is going to be a little bit of a pet card for me, especially with red being able to dig through your deck is, I feel like, a struggle for them. So that's a good dig through your deck kind of card.
Yep.
So I think it hits a lot of positives for not just Prosper, but a lot of red decks, especially red decks that are flinging a lot of spells really quickly. That gives you an additional benefit when you cast that at the end of it.
Right.
It does make it onto the sorcery part of it, but barely. It's at the very, very bottom.
Yeah.
Right, that's what I'm
But it
saying.
did make it to the page. So.
So I don't like,
I think it's a
and
good
most
pick.
of the decks, most of the decks I actually went through, none of them had that card. I think almost every deck I checked when I was building my Prosper and updating it and, kind of manipulating it, I never saw one person have that card in it. So,
Wow.
all right, Duncan.
Zoyawa's Justice.
Just a thing.
So this costs
Yeah,
1 and a
tough.
red.
It's an instant, and it says the owner of target artifact or creature with mana value 1 or greater shuffles it into their library. Then that player discovers X, where X is its mana value. discover means you exile cards in the top of the library until you exile a spell with that value or less. You cast it without paying its mana cost, or you can put it in your hand.
Right.
So it's kind of like a cheaper version of Chaos Warp. Right?
Yeah, because it's what you say, 1 red instead?
Yep.
And it is an instant or sorcery?
Instant.
It's still an instant, yeah.
But the other thing is, you can use it on your stuff.
It's true.
Which is very, very good. You
Yeah.
use it on a token or something.
Yeah, use it on a token. Token has a 0, so you wouldn't really want to do that. And plus, it says it has to have value 1 or greater.
Oh,
So-
you'd have to kill something pretty big on your board then.
I mean, it depends. For instance, if you know,
In
if you
response
want
to
your
board wipe
soul
or
ring,
something?
if you want your soul ring, and you have out your skull clamp or something, how many 1s are you gonna have in your deck? You're gonna go for that, or
Because that just puts it back in the library, right? The thing you
yes,
target?
yep.
Yeah.
So if somebody goes
it's
to
not like
exile
you're not actually
something,
losing it, so it's very similar to
if
Chaos
somebody
Warp.
goes to Stores of Plowshares it, and then response you do this, you're gonna go get something.
Yeah, you still get
And if you
something with
don't cast whatever you get, you can still put it in your hand. If it's like a counter spell, which then wouldn't do anything, just put it
I
in
do
your
like that you could put it back in your hand, but I also like that you can't put that you could put. I also don't like that you can do that when you're going after someone else's target.
Right, but I mean, a problem's a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you
It's
use
a
it,
good call.
yeah, if you use it offensively, then it's like, okay, I got rid of the problem at least for now. We know
Right.
it's on the bottom of their deck.
And with Chaos
Sure.
Warp, we've seen it come back. We've seen the thing.
Yeah, because with Chaos Warp, it actually shuffles. That doesn't shuffle it, right? That
Yeah, it does.
It does shuffle?
Yep.
Okay, so
So they could hit it again.
Well, and what happens with Chaos Warp a lot of times is you get
it
rid
gets
of one
something
problem
worse.
for a
Oh my
bigger
gosh, so
problem,
much
you know?
worse.
Yeah.
Without fail, like as much as I love literally the chaos of red and that card, Chaos Warp, it's just sometimes I'm like, it's just not worth it. Like there's so many other different removal cards I could put in where I know will actually remove it.
Yeah,
Like,
for sure.
This is just potentially trading one problem for a bigger, worse problem.
Well, and like I said, Chaos Warp, I have seen it many times.
Yeah, just
Where it hits the
just
exact same thing. Just
Yeah.
boom, there it is again.
I've also seen it just grab a land, and you're like, oh, phew.
Yeah.
I mean, I've also seen it grab something where it's like, oh, okay, cool.
Like
Everyone's
Steel
dead.
Colossus.
Yeah, like okay, sure, yeah, I'll take that. It's like, oh my gosh.
Got
what
rid
did
of
we do?
Seedborn Muse, brought back Blightsteel Colossus. Like,
Yeah.
oh no.
Like this is so much worse.
Yeah.
So
Jeff, you got another card?
Yeah, Sunbird's Invocation.
I don't know how underplayed that is, but go right ahead.
Well, it's 69 cents this card.
Yeah.
So it's not.
It's because they printed the heck out of it. It's been in precons like crazy.
Do you see it a lot?
Yeah.
I don't see it that much.
That's
Well,
'cause
I
you don't
guess
play a
I'll get
lot.
different one.
I got him.
But it's 5 and a red. Whenever you cast a spell from your hand, reveal the top X cards of your library, where X is that spell's converted mana cost. You may cast a card revealed this way with converted mana cost X or less without paying its mana cost. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order.
Oh, similarly, you know what else is good in your decks? Lands. No, I'm teasing because that one is so good.
It
That
is
one-
very good.
And they put it in a bunch of precons because it's so good. And
So
it's
maybe
cheap.
that's why it's really cheap.
Yeah, it's just reprinted a lot, I think. So.
All right. Well, I have another one when you guys are back to me.
Okay. So the one that I have here is Dark Petition. It's the 3 black sorcery. Search your library for a card and then put that card into your hand, then shuffle your library. However, it has spell mastery, which is if you have at least 3 instances and or sorceries in your graveyard, you may then add 3 black mana back to your mana pool. So effectively, as long as you cast this at the right point in the game, you're getting a 2-cost tutor and 3 black mana to then potentially cast that thing you just tutored for.
Yeah.
So it's one of those spells. Again, the front end cost of it being 5 deters a lot of people from wanting to play it because it's like, well, I got to commit 5 mana to it, so I have to be at least at a later point in the game. If you're playing a very heavy instance and sorcery deck, this is such a good. I can't tell you how many times that this has come back to help me out when I'm able to cast it at the right point in the game, because I do try to throw this in decks that are going to be very heavy instance and sorcery wise. This is one of the ones that I was going to put in Prosper, but I intentionally didn't because I was like, well, if I start putting tutors in there,
Yeah.
I'm going to creep a little too strong, I think, with this deck, and I'm not really going to be able to play it that much. So I intentionally didn't put it in my Prosper deck, but this is one that I would throw in there if I wanted to make it a little bit more CEDH. And this is also one where in my turtle deck, I use this a lot because I burn through a lot of instants and sorceries to get to my combo. And so this is one that really helps in that deck too, because again, getting back 3 black mana, essentially the other tutor that does the same exact thing, demonic tutor, is 2 black mana. And the advantage and kind of disadvantage of this is you're getting back 3 black mana, so whatever you're casting, hopefully you're going to be able to use that mana, but it's still 2 mana essentially at that point. So you're spending the same amount for this as you would demonic tuner in that sense. So it's one of those ones that kind of just goes by the wayside because I think the front cost of it being 5 mana scares people.
Yep.
But again, in the right deck, when you got, and again, 3 instants or sorcerers in your graveyard is not hard to accomplish in the right deck.
No,
You
exactly.
burn through that pretty quick. So that's one I think a lot of people kind of sleep on, and I think the front end cost scares them of it. The 3 black. So.
I gotcha. I like it. My next one is Descent into Avernus. This one is 2 in a red, and it says at the beginning of your upkeep, put 2 descent counters on Descent into Avernus. Then each player creates X treasure tokens, and Descent into Avernus deals X damage to that player, where X is the number of descent counters on it. This is ramp.
Yeah.
This is hurting your enemies.
Yeah.
And in the right deck, yes, you're giving them the same thing, right? But you're hurting them for it.
Yeah.
And you get to use yours first.
It's almost one of those things where it's like, do you really want to keep taking all this damage, or do you just want to, pop those? Because it's based off the treasures, right?
No, it's just based off the counters.
Based off the counters of them, right? So it's like one of those things. Like, do you really want to keep getting treasures, or do you want to take care of this?
But there's also certain decks like my Scion of War. Can't think of his first name. Rowan, Scion of War. I can tap him to make my red and black spells cost X less, where X is the amount of damage I've taken on my turn.
Yeah.
So on something like that, I want to take damage. Just give me ramp, it's feeding that.
I played in Neheb.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
This would be real good in, actually, I haven't gotten to play it yet, but it's in my new Niv Mizzet. The one that says when your opponents take damage, non-combat damage from you, you draw cards equal to that damage.
Oh my god.
Yeah. That's
so
for
gross.
first time you put a counter on it, that's 3 draws.
It's a card draw version of Neheb.
And you get a treasure.
Yeah.
That's so gross.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
So gross. He's blue-red again, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Of course.
Yeah, that multicolor one, the Wooburg was just
Yeah.
made no sense.
It wasn't that.
He didn't do a thing that was Niv Mizzet-y. It was like, why are you doing this? But what's that next card you got?
So I got a preference mine here because I think it's cool when there are players that can go and find different cards that kind of do the same thing but people haven't heard of, and there are people that love doing that. That doesn't really do anything for me personally. I don't care about that. I just like building good decks and seeing synergies happen. However, these are cards that do get played, but I don't think they get played enough. I think the meta has moved to 2 mana ramp spells really strongly. And an area that I see that doesn't get a lot of attention are the 1 mana land enchantment cards. They don't get played very much. They kind of get ignored comparative to the 2 mana cards. And then the other thing is, don't give up on the Cultivates and the Kodama's Reaches, because those 3 mana ones, the 1 mana enchant a land is obvious. You are putting a risk out there. Someone can destroy that land and take care of a lot of your mana. It doesn't happen a ton in games, though, and there are typically other lands that are more dangerous. But Cultivate, although it costs 1 more, you're not just getting that land into play. You're essentially drawing a land, which there's some value in drawing a card still, and it might be worth that 1 extra, and it sets you up for the next play. We should not forget that in Commander, we're playing the long game more than in CEDH, where we're just going for the win right now. And so getting that extra land could be a big deal. So I guess mine is, maybe don't give up on the Cultivates and the Kodama Reaches yet, and just go to the Nature's Lures and the 3 Visits and all of that. Stay with those 3 mana ramps. They're better than you think they are.
Right. Yeah, no, that's true. And the thing about those enchantment is that you talked about, they could destroy the land, they could remove the enchantment. Either way, most people don't play land destruction. You going and getting more lands is always better. That's always the best option. If you can go get more lands, do that. Don't do the other things.
Yeah, but for 1 green,
Yeah.
it's wild. Some
No,
of these
no, and
enchanted lands.
yeah, no. There's a couple that are 1, and then there's a bunch that are 2.
There are.
Even at 2, it's not a bad value.
It's not, and they're a lot less money, guys, than 3 visits and all those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, because I think I saw Nature's Lures at like $5 or something crazy. So, I mean, Wild Growth is 79 cents. So,
Yeah.
What's your next one, Sloan?
So this one's for you, Duncan. This is a blue card sorcery, 2 and a blue, called Borrowing 100,000 Arrows.
How's that work?
Draw a card for each tapped creature target opponent controls.
Yeah, no, I play it.
Yeah, it's one of those ones. I have this in my turtle guy because he forces everyone's stuff to come in taps when he's tapped, and so this is a great one where my hand's starting to empty out, and if I have this in my hand, I'm like, fantastic. Who's creating a bunch of tokens that are coming in tapped?
Yeah.
You are. Great. I'm going to draw 15 cards for 3 mana.
that's wild.
Yeah, it is a super fun card that, again, it's a little more situational, and I feel like that's kind of the fear with it. But I do want to point out that there is a card called Harmonize, which costs 4 mana, 2 green, and only draws you 3 cards. So you could potentially be doing the same thing for 3 mana. So you could be saving yourself a mana, specifically a colored mana also, because, again, Harmonize requires 2 green. So borrowing 100,000 arrows, again, sorcery too, so it's a little bit slower, but being able to potentially draw anywhere from 1 to 15 cards is a pretty big deal. So I think for 3 mana, even if it only gets you 2 cards, 3 cards, it replaces itself. And and maybe nets you 1 or 2 cards. That's still a big win for 3 mana.
Oh, yeah.
There's not a lot of I can't think of that many cards that draw you 3 cards for 3 mana.
No, it's very good.
So borrowing 100,000 arrows. I also like the name. I thought the name was
So
funny.
that goes very good with another one of my pet cards.
Okay.
Turnabout. 2 and 2 blue mana. Tap or untap all artifacts, creatures, or lands target player controls.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's an instant. So you could, like, on the previous player's end step, tap all the creatures. Then on your turn, you can, or if you have
Borrowing 100,000 arrows.
yes, or if you have the mana, you could do both. But I'm just saying, like,
Well, borrowing 100,000 arrows is sorcery.
sorcery. Okay, you couldn't.
So you have to wait till your
Yeah,
turn.
but, I mean, with this card, you're gonna
Forcing,
get.
forcing people to tap all their stuff. Yeah, that's great.
Yep.
That's a great one.
It is also actually can be used as blue ramp. If you, have enough mana to tap a bunch of your lands, you have 4 left, untap them. So, Jeff, you got any more cards?
I do. So I have 2 here, and just so that you guys know, this gets played in less decks and in less percentage of decks that it can be played in than Descent into Avernus. So it might seem like these cards are played more than they are, and I think that's just because we're used to seeing them in the past. But they're not getting played as much. And there's 2 cards. One, my favorite, is called Tooth and Nail. So this is 5 and 2 green. Choose one. Search your library for up to 2 creature cards, reveal them, put them into your hand. Then shuffle your library, or put up to 2 creature cards from your hand onto the battlefield. So you can do either. Or you can entwine it for 2 and do both. So 9 mana, go get 2 creatures, put them into play. It wins the game.
It should.
It's just a lot of fun for 9 mana. It's just, and you don't always have to go get the card that necessarily wins the game. Sometimes you go get 2 fun cards, but most of the time you just win the game. It's a very good card.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I feel like I still see it played a lot, but also I play in higher power metas, so maybe that's why. I wonder if people have gotten away from it because it is so high powered. And
It could be.
I don't want to use the word broken because compared to many things nowadays, that's not that bad. But
Yeah.
Well, it's also expensive too, and I feel like a lot of the games have moved to a lower mana curve in Magic.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you're also talking about a green card though, so expensive in green is like 20 mana, as compared to every other color where it's like 5 mana.
yeah, it's still pretty high, but
So, but I mean, I'll point out in my segment towards the end here why that is a little bit of a skewed statement. But my next card's Tamio's Safekeeping. So this is a 1 green instant. Pretty straightforward. Target permanent you control gains hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. You gain 2 life. It's a great little save my commander or save this creature that I want to stay alive. It keeps one thing alive for board wipes, and this specifically I'm bringing up because I just built an Indoraptor Perfect Hybrid deck, and this is something I put in there for 2 reasons. 1, to protect him from Indoraptor from board wipes, but 2, because if I make him indestructible, I can make an infinite fight loop where he just keeps fighting things over and over again, and he just board wipes everybody and kills everybody. So the indestructible part is what I really like. And then lastly, the hexproof. So again, your Swords of Plowshares, your Path to Exiles, things like that. I give it hexproof also. So it gets 2 keywords, and you gain 2 life for 1 green mana for until the end of turn. That's a pretty good value in my book of trade-off for what I'm giving and getting. So I think it's one that a lot of people kind of sleep on. They think, well, it's only for 1 turn, or it only does it. True, but it only costs 1 mana to send your commander to exile.
Yeah.
So it should only cost you 1 mana to save it. So that's why I like that one. I think it's another one that
does not save it. Oh, hexproof. Yes.
Yeah, it gives it hexproof. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's 1 mana cheaper than Heroic Intervention, which saves all your creatures and does the same thing, but it's a lot less money. Like, how much does that card cost?
I think it's sub 50 cents.
Yeah.
50 cents.
It's
Yeah.
super cheap.
And Heroic Intervention's $16 plus.
Right. So,
But again, that's the thing about Magic that's tough is like, if you're playing on a budget, you're playing Tamio Safekeeping versus someone who's playing Heroic Intervention. It's tough.
yeah, and the other thing with this one too specifically, and the reason why I bring up Indoraptor is because I really don't care about my other creatures. Like, I only care about Indoraptor. I want him to be around. And again, the indestructible part for the infinite fight combo is the other part that I really
So it's it's almost like a Voltron strategy.
Yeah,
that would work really good in Voltron.
Right, and that's the thing too, is like if you only care about certain creatures or you want to save certain things, that's a great way to do
Yeah,
it.
it's
So.
in my Wolverine deck.
Yeah,
Yeah,
save
again,
$16.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. It saves my wallet and my wife from.
Yeah.
You're about to talk about what I think is the best red ramp spell now
Yeah.
that Dockside is gone.
Yeah, this guy is so fun, and not enough people are playing him. So, Tuner, now he is a little bit expensive. I think he's jumped up quite a bit in pricing.
Has he really?
I think
what is
so.
it?
This is Treasure Nabber. 2 and a red, creature, Goblin Rogue. Whenever an opponent taps an artifact for mana, gain control of that artifact until the end of your next turn. It is such a fun card. I wish I had 100 of these because this guy is so stinking funny to be like, you get him out, especially if you can get him out early. Like, if you have him in your opening hand, you can drop him on like turn 2 or turn 1 sometimes if you're real lucky. Like, everyone drops their 0 cost rocks. Guess what you have on your next turn? You have 9 to 10 mana potentially available because everyone's tapping their stuff down to try to get their stuff out. And then you're just going to have a buku turn one turn. And the best example I have of this is actually playing Duncan's deck when the Lord of the Rings sets first came out. I don't remember this game. We're at the shop, and I was like, well, I want to try out some of the Lord of the Rings decks. So can I play one? He's like, yeah, play this one. It's the Sauron one, I think is what it was. Who's like blue, black, red.
Yep.
And he costs like 7 mana to get. He's like 4 blue, black,
Yeah.
red or something like
He's
that.
expensive.
So turn 1, I dropped a Treasure Nabber because I had like a Soul Ring, a land, and then I think I had a 0-drop rock too in my hand. So on turn 1, I got him out. Everyone else also dropped a rock, and everyone used it except for Duncan. And I looked at Duncan, I was like, Duncan, if you just tap your rock real quick before my turn start, I can turn 2, drop a 7-drop commander. He's like, all right, fine. And so he did it just so I could do it. But it was so funny because it's like on my turn 2, I had not only my Soul Ring and my 0-drop and my 1 mana, I then also had a Mana Crypt, I think, and another Soul Ring. Like, it was ridiculous.
I have really good news for you.
So
It's a 55-cent card.
Oh, went back down. Thank you, Jesus. There you go.
Yep.
Because it did shoot up to, it was like almost.
I think they just reprinted them in something.
Oh, okay.
But he
was
so
He
good.
was almost, I think, either like $5 to $8 almost.
So
at one point.
I saw him dropped in a game where somebody was playing that red-green commander that says you can tap non-token artifacts for mana. So guess what happens?
He steals them.
He steals them.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Even though they don't work for Min on his term, whatever they were supposed to do, they did for him.
It's a very good card.
It's such a funny little card.
It is a tough one because it is dependent upon who you're playing against.
Yeah, and I will say that ultimately, and I think the reason why people aren't as threatened by him is because you can technically play around it. It doesn't do anything for treasures, right?
Right.
Treasures go away. But I think the fun thing about him is that you could potentially on your upkeep have 4 soul rings.
Yeah.
which would be hilarious,
Which you would hope that if people see him out there, they don't do that.
Right, and again,
you gotta not tap your artifact.
which I think is
You have to kill him and then tap your artifact.
right, and I think that's a cool way of also deterring people.
Yeah, it does.
It's a good deterrent.
It is a bit of stacks, in that capacity. Sort of like Ristic Study can have the other effect if they don't let you draw, at least you're making them pay more.
Right, and they're having to change how they play.
Yep.
So, but that was my last one. I thought he was just a cool little guy that sneaks underneath the radar. A lot of people don't seem to use him, and with the laying to rest of Dockside, I definitely think that's potentially a really good filler for him.
Oh yeah, no, he's so good.
Because I think Dockside was what, one
And
of
every time he's played and there's mana rocks out, people are like, well, wow, oh wow.
Yeah,
Because they have to decide, like, if they don't have removal right then.
like it might.
But I need to cast spells, man. I was counting on this.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And they rationalize, oh, you're just getting to borrow it. I'm going to get it back. It'll be fine.
Right, and I think that's the other part.
Yeah, they don't realize what you're going to get to do on your turn.
Right,
Why?
and it lulls them to sleep because it's like, oh, you're only getting it till the end of your turn. That's fine. And then what they don't realize is, wait, how much mana do you have? It's turn 4. You have 12 mana.
It's like when
Wait, how do you have 12 mana?
It's the same thing when they say, "Oh, he's gonna draw a lot of cards, but I'll have to discard." It's like that's not smart.
Unless they hit the worst land pocket in their entire life, them drawing that many cards usually is never a bad thing. So.
Jeff, I see what you have pulled up, and I don't know how underplayed it is,
So
but
it's
it is
2%
great
of decks.
cards.
It's only in 50,000 decks, which seems like a lot, but it's not. It's 2%.
Yeah, I mean,
of the
Duncan
decks
has
that it
like
can
at
go
least
in.
half that many decks himself.
It's called As Foretold, 2 and 1 blue. At the beginning of upkeep, put a time counter on As Foretold. It's an enchantment. Once each turn, you may pay 0 rather than pay the mana cost for a spell you cast with mana value X or less, where X is the number of time counters on As Foretold. So there was a time I had this in a track set, and it was amazing. But it just was a little too unfair. So I took it out. It's just like, because with the track set down or with any of my stuff to proliferate, this thing has 5 or 6 counters on it.
Well, I think, I swear, I seem to remember, weren't you playing the artifact that lets you play at flash speed too?
Yes.
With the Duncan Ori.
Yeah, so you were being able to cast anything you want for free on anybody's turn.
Yeah.
Yeah,
which
that was what was growth.
No, yeah, it's fun. But I took both those out of Atraxa, so be nice.
Did you have any more?
That was my last one. That the Treasure Nabra kind of wanted to round out with him.
I mean, I can always do more, but we'll do this again sometime, and I'll save some of those for that.
I mean, and if we do deck techs too, you might see some of these cards pop up in those deck techs as well, and so you can, we'll point them out and we'll go through that because again, I think Alex was his name, correct?
Yep.
Was asking for some deck tech videos. We did the one, and a lot of people really liked that one too. It was the snow guy.
And that wasn't really even a deck tech. Like we should do an actual deck tech where we
that was more of a deck build.
But we go over and talk about the reason why.
Right. I think we kind of have. I think we've talked about my Lear deck.
Yeah.
And what I do in that.
So, but maybe one day we'll actually sit down and we'll tear apart. We'll have someone tear apart one of their decks in regards to like going through the cards and explaining each card and the combos.
It's going to require homework.
Yeah.
So
well,
I mean, I would just physically bring my deck in.
We play the deck a lot. We probably know how it synergizes.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, that's true. But so Sloan, you got any pro tips for beginners from a non-pro?
So I guess it's a pro tip, but it's also a tale from the table. We had the blessing of having Jeff host us over at his house for a Christmas dinner, and we're shortly after, remarkably, I think it was 2 weeks later, we got to go back again and play Magic, and we got to play with his 2 sons, Jaden and Paxton. Mm-hmm. So the pro tip is green is stupidly broken when it comes to ramp, and merfolks are super annoying. So, to give you an idea,
It's just Paxton's deck.
Paxton has a merfolk deck.
Yeah.
It was the pre-con, but it's been upgraded, so
Yeah.
it's not really a pre-con anymore.
No,
but
it's a very expensive deck.
it's a really well put together deck. And the thing was that the merfolk he was playing is the one that does the new explore mechanic, revealing the card, putting 1/1 counters, or if it's a land, you can put it in your hand. But then he had the combo out where he had another merfolk that says if it explores a land, you can then put a land from your hand onto the battlefield. So it was turn 4. I have the notes in my phone, and I wrote it down on purpose. It was turn 4. He had 7 lands out, and one of them produced 2 mana. So he technically had 8 effective mana out on turn 4. It's a blue-green deck. Don't let people tell you that green or blue, like in that combo, like it's gross. Like Simic is disgusting. Merfolk, Tribal, and Simic with that commander and with the way it's gross. It was so disgusting. It was absolutely absurd. And the fact that I sat there when Paxton said he was going to play that, I was like, all right, I'm playing this Interrupter deck, which is not at that power level. He was like, it's just merfolks. I was like, Paxton, I don't think you understand what you're about to sit down and play. Like. And sure enough, turn 4.
He doesn't have another deck.
Yeah,
So
and that's fair. I definitely should not have played Interrupter.
The Birds deck. Then.
Yeah,
So
the Birds
maybe-
deck,
yeah.
which
is also powerful.
is freaking hilarious and ironic that he built a Birds deck, and we always rag on Birds. So I'm really excited to see how that plays. But yeah, so merfolks are gross. That blue-green merfolk, I can't remember his name. Whatever his name is, if you see him, just murder him constantly. Just kill him all the time because. Letting all of your lands come from your hand for free constantly.
But I did find the counter to that.
Yeah, board wipes.
Well, no, it was chaos, if you remember. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the other
that
part.
was me. I actually caused more chaos in the chaos deck than you did.
There was a second thing that happened in that game, but we'll save it for another tale of the table. That was absolutely crazy when you cast the one spell and then Paxton cast a spell and it triggered, and it's like we had to sit there and do trigonometry almost. It was like ridiculous, the math we had to try to figure out for these spells.
Just to cut it short, that game was so long. I let my 12 and 13-year-old Jaden and Paxton literally decide whether they were just going to give up and go play video games. Because I think we played that game for another hour and a half before we finished it.
So this is a lesson. When children play decks against you don't like, you use chaos and you just...
Oh, my kids don't want to play with you anymore.
I'm sure.
Oh my gosh.
My kids think Duncan is so mean that he would do something like that.
It was...
They're asking me afterwards, why? Like, what? Like, sort of when someone does something really terrible, why would they do... They're like, why would he... Why would he put that in his... Why would he put that in his deck?
Especially a Hugs deck.
That's the best part.
Hugs in that deck. That deck doesn't hug.
It was a crazy game, but we got to play another game after our little Christmas game that we got to do. We went back and we got to play with Jaden and Paxton.
I did play a lot in December.
Yeah, we got to play a lot of games. We got to
a lot for you,
for sure. So much shade.
A lot for me and probably for a lot of the people out there too.
I'm just saying that was like a Friday night for me, those 2 days combined.
But not everybody gets to do what you do in crazy town.
That's true.
But that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us. We want to thank you guys really for being listeners or watchers. We really appreciate your support. Thank you, Alex, for reaching out.
Yeah.
Check us out on commanderspod.com. Mm-hmm. You can support us at patreon.com/commanderspod. You can always email us, cast@commanderspod.com. And if you really want to support us, go down to Mystic Forge, sit down at a table, and kill Andrew first.
Commander's Pod, where the stories unfold, with heroes and villains new and old. Duncan, Jeff, and Sloan guide the way in the world of bsEDH we play. So tune in, friends, let's draw and go. In the Commander's Pod, the love will show. From our decks to yours, we share the spark in this world of magic. We'll leave on low.